By the end, Eric Bristow had settled on cats for company. No fewer than 22 were passing through his household in a year. There were 11 at one time, because his wife worked for a charity that rehouses strays. You can trust an animal, he said a few months back. An animal doesn't stab you in the back. The bitterness was born of the way sport and society had come to deem him a pariah for posting a series of tweets, at the height of the football sex abuse scandal in 2016, suggesting the victims were not proper men because they did not sort out their abusers later in life. Bristow, who died in Liverpool on Thursday night aged 60 after suffering a heart attack, had apparently forgotten that the compassion so absent in his ramblings was something he received in abundance when afflicted in 1986 by dartitis, a debilitating psychological condition which prevents a player throwing for fear of missing. You feel like you're doomed. It does your brains in. Just does your brains in, Bristow said of the illness which cut him down from his pinnacle as the world's best darts player where he had stood for 6 years. Yet when he was barging in on the darts scene, a 16-year-old in a men's world who told them he was 18 to ensure they'd let him play, the Bristow swagger, with all of its careless, outspoken abandon, was what made him such a compelling sporting personality. He always claimed he had started out in professional life as a cat burglar, part of a gang calling themselves the Oxton Boys, who roamed the mean streets of Stoke Newington in East London, robbing, joyriding, shoplifting and brawling. They were bandits with a conscience. We were good thieves, if there was such a thing. We didn't trash people's houses, we didn't physically hurt anyone, and there wasn't a sinister side to us. Darts rescued him from a life of crime, though it was just another way of beating the establishment. The speed with which he computed finishes was part of the extraordinary spectacle which saw him ranked world number 1 by the World Darts Federation a record 6 times between 1980 and 1990. He was world champion 5 times between 1980 to 1986, his blistering period of dominance, and also won 5 World Masters titles. More than that, he turned darts into a worldwide spectator sport and was awarded the MBE in recognition of the fact in 1989. I was a freak, wasn't I? He said last year. It was an old man's game and, all of a sudden, you had this kid wiping them out. The Crafty Cockney nickname was acquired when he visited an English pub of that name in 1976 during a visit to Santa Monica, California. He seized it, along with the limelight, and the good fortune to be stepping up to the Archie just as television began showing increased interest in darts in the late 1970s. The first World Championship took place in 1978. He came across a raw darts talent at Stoke-on-Trent in the late 1980s and sponsored him to the tune of about £10,000. The player, Phil Taylor, went on to usurp his mentor as the greatest player ever. Bristow was often on the receiving end of his brilliance. His game was never the same after the illness. He reached the semi-finals of the 1997 PDC World Championship and competed for a final time in 2007. Bristow went to his grave with no regrets about his Twitter comments, though he wished he had expressed them differently. What you have to understand is that I was brought up in a different era, he said last year. It was a different Bristow that darts wanted to remember on Thursday night. Eric was never afraid of controversy, but he spoke as he found and was honest and straightforward, which is what people admired about him, said Barry Hearn, head of the Professional Darts Corporation which Bristow helped form. He was a tremendous player and a huge character. The inimitable commentator Sid Waddell once said of him, when Alexander of Macedonia was 33, he cried salt tears because there were no more worlds to conquer. Bristow's only 27. Bristow died at a darts exhibition event at the Echo Arena. Among those he called his own people. They chanted his name when the news came through. He would have appreciated the significance of that.